Okay, so chapter 9, we are talking about the business. Okay, and from this chapter, all we're going to talk about is the business. Okay, how business is going to make decision to maximize their profit. And the profit including two parts, revenue and cost. So this chapter, we touch base on the profit a little bit, but majority part, we talk about the cost. So we talk about based on are you going to pay out of your pocket? We have explicit cost, implicit cost. And based on are we going to calculate all cost or only explicit cost? Only explicit cost will be accounting profit. All costs involved in the production will be economic profit. And then we talk about the short run, long run. So any input, if in a certain period of time you cannot change the level of the input, it's a short run. When time is long enough, that will be long run, which means all input can be changed. And we talk about production function, which is a relationship between the level of different input and the level of output. And we introduce marginal product and average product. You are required to know how to calculate the marginal and average from the total product. And then we draw the graph, shows you when the marginal product is going up, it will reach the maximum number and then it's going to going down. Just like our marginal utility, there's diminishing marginal returns. And as far as this marginal return is positive, total product is goes up, and when this marginal product is negative, add additional negative number to total number goes down. And we said for any wise producer, they don't want to produce in this area where marginal product is negative, total product is going down. So they want to produce somewhere here, but can you hire that much of labor, and is that going to be that much of labor going to be maximized profit will be the question we're going to answer for the following 6 or 7 chapters. Okay, and then we introduce the total cost. We said depends on is this cost going to be changing along how many bread you're going to make. We have fixed costs and the variable costs. Usually your rental or insurance premium is not going to change no matter how many bread you made. So that is a fixed cost. But how many flour, sugar you're going to need to hire is depends on how many bread you're going to make. So the cost going to change along the output. So in that case, we put the total cost in one graph. We said the total variable start with 0. No bread made, no flour need, so no cost on that. But that add total variable cost add the total fixed cost, which is no matter you make bread or not, you're going to pay the rental, you're going to pay the insurance premium. So that is a fixed cost. Add this together will be total cost. So we can see total cost start with the total fixed cost and go up and parallel with total variable cost. Then we introduce average cost. Use total cost divided by quantity. On both sides, we have average variable cost. Average variable cost, we have average total, which is equal to average fixed plus average variable. We also introduce the marginal cost. If you want to make additional bread to make more profit, it definitely going to involve additional cost. So that is marginal cost. And then we tell you, you need to know how to calculate how to calculate the total fixed cost if you give you total fixed cost, and how to calculate total cost, average fixed, average variable, average total, and marginal cost when they give you total variable cost. Okay, in your assignment, you are required to do this calculation. And then, we said, okay, now you need to put this graph together. We said average fixed cost is always going down because you have the same amount of cost on the rental, and the more bread you made, then the less average fixed cost spread to each bread. Okay, and then total variable cost is U-shape, total cost is U-shape, total cost is the summary of average variable, average fixed. So in that case, if you draw a line, this is the cost, okay? So this is the cost. And here to here below the yellow line is average fixed, average variable. And then here is average total. So the difference between the line under right and the area under the yellow, that is average fixed. So the difference between average total and average is average fixed. Okay, and then we draw the marginal cost. We said if additional is smaller than average, average goes down. If this additional marginal is greater than average, average goes up. So marginal cost across the minimum part for both average total and average fixed. Okay. All right, that is so far the review. Am I going too fast? Yes, no?
No. No.
Okay, all right, next one we are going to talk about why. Okay, we said, okay, average variable cost is U-shaped, average total cost is U-shaped. Now why? So now let's take a look. Okay, and oh, sorry. And so average total, average variable, marginal cost, they all U-shaped. Okay, why they're U-shaped? Okay, so actually, from marginal cost, we can calculate average. Let's say additional product is this. For the first one is 100. Additional product for the second is, let's say, about 70. The average will be 100 plus 70 divided by 2. So in that case, if you have marginal, you will be able to calculate average. So in that case, let's take a look why the marginal cost is U-shaped. So let's take a look at the calculation on the marginal cost. Okay, so marginal cost is additional cost. So if I make additional bread, I will generate additional cost. But remember, we said total cost including two parties. One is a fixed cost, another is variable cost. Fixed costs never change. So the only changing part is variable cost. Are you with me? Okay, so that's why it's pretty safe, because if you look at this graph, we're changing from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, the fixed cost is not changing. So the total changing part is actually the variable cost. So it's very safe for us move from total changing cost to total change of variable cost, because fixed costs never change. So the total variable of changing of the total variable cost changing. Okay, so what is a variable cost? Variable is the cost is changing. So for example, if I'm gonna make additional bread, I'm gonna hire more worker. So when I hire more workers, that will be the increase of the number of input of the labor. But how much I'm gonna pay the worker is the price of the, let's say the price of hourly wage is $7.25, which is never changed, okay, in the short run, okay? So in that case, we said, okay, the wage is not changed, it's still $7.29, but I hired more workers. So the only changing part is the increased number of the worker divided by changing of the bread. And if you look at that, what is that? Okay, so this is a wage. Okay, the changing of variable cost, let's say only change the labor, will be the wage, the salary, times the changing of the labor I'm hired. Salary is not changing, so the only change of the change is the change of the labor. So in that case, let's take a look at here. Okay. The change of labor on the top is changing of output. That is marginal product. So in that case, when we go back to check that, that is basically the wage divided by the marginal product. Am I going too fast?
No.
Okay, so now let's take a look. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's share. Okay. So remember, total product, marginal product. Okay, we said the marginal product goes up until they reach the maximum point, it starts going down. Okay, of course, they changing from positive to negative. That is where total profit goes up and then goes down. Okay, so now let's take a look. This is upside down U-shape, and we find out marginal cost is actually equal to the wage, which is 729.25 divided by the marginal product. So in that case, if this is on the bottom, when this number goes to the biggest number, marginal cost will be the smallest number, right? So in that case, when this reach the biggest number, if I draw marginal cost, that will be the smallest number. Okay. All right. Any question on that part?
No.
Okay. So actually from the graph, we know since marginal product goes up and then shows diminishing marginal product, then marginal cost is just the fixed number divided by that. So when this reaches to the bigger number, this will be smallest number. So that will be upside down marginal product. So marginal cost is U-shape, okay? And then we said average will be the, if you produce one product, okay, first worker will have a marginal cost for the first worker, and then second worker, you have marginal cost for the second worker, and the average will be the first one plus second divided by 2. So if marginal cost is U-shape, of course, average cost is U-shape. Okay, now we actually introduce why this shape looks like that by using this equation. So can we move to next one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in that case, okay, I'm gonna make this chapter's class note available for you online. Did I already make? I believe I already make them available online. So in that case, you can read it in detail. But again, just look at the graph. Okay, look at the graph. It will help you understand it better. And let me actually draw that graph for you again. Okay. Basically, on this graph for the cost, you have average fixed. Okay, I have average variable is U-shape, and since average variable plus average fixed is equal to average total, I will have average total. Okay, and average variable reach to the minimum number, but since average fixed cost is still going down, so average total reached the minimum numbers a little bit later compared to average variable. And then marginal cost cross both minimum part and is U-shape because marginal cost, if marginal cost greater than average, average goes up. When marginal cost is less than average, average goes down. Okay, that works for both average. Okay, so now you know how to draw this full graph. Okay, and for this full graph, let me see if I can erase this one to make it easier. Okay, so for any of these costs, let's say if I produce one bread, okay, that is the cost. Then that means this is average total cost. This is average variable cost because this is average variable cost. And that difference between average total and average variable, this is average fixed. All right, can I move to next one? Any question?
Yes.
Okay, you have to understand this graph because that is very important graph. You're gonna see this graph again and again and again for next 4 and 5 chapters, okay? And also as a business, you have to understand the cost, okay? Okay, so, and in my PowerPoint, it shows you why that. Okay, so now what we learned is short run. Why it's a short run? Because when we calculate this marginal cost, we assume other factors. Let's say if I only change the labor, we assume land maybe fixed, capital fixed, and entrepreneurship fixed. Okay, that is a short run. However, when time is longer enough, we want to draw a long run cost structure. Okay, so in that case, we have the short run, let's draw a long run. Okay, so let's show you how that formed. Okay, so in that case, this is cost. Okay, that is output or total product. Or how many I'm going to produce. Okay, so I have average total cost. Let's say I'm going to making bread. Okay, I'm making bread and then I have average total cost here. It reached to the minimum. Okay, so Dr. Z opened a 1 bakery shop in Alva, and then that is my average total cost. Now, when time is longer enough, I can start open another bakery shop. I will have average total cost on open 2 bakery shop, okay? And when Dr. Z still have money, when time is long enough, I can start open another bakery shop in Woodward. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, why is keeping going this way? Because open 1 bakery shop, maybe this is 100 bread. Open 2, that probably I can have 200 bread. Open 3, then definitely can produce more, right? So the average total cost is gonna move on this side, okay? All right, however, if I draw it, usually what happens is when I open the new bakery shop, I'm gonna make more bread. And then when I make more bread, I can purchase more flour. When I purchase more flour, probably before I'm gonna purchase a flour for 50 cents per pound. But when I purchase more, I can negotiate with sellers that, hey, can I purchase it with 30 cents per pound? So in that case, it's gonna lower the cost. So in the reality is probably my average total cost is going down a little bit, okay? And if I open a more bakery shop, of course, I purchase more flour. So actually, my average total cost is going down more. So in that case, if you draw the graph that lowers the point, okay, I gonna connect all of them together. That is the long run average total cost. Okay, any question?
No.
Okay, so basically is to be able to increase the land, I will be open more bakery shop and then I can reach the minimum, okay? And connect all this minimum point will be the long run average total cost. So in that case, let's go back to a pretty graph the book drawed. Okay, so that is what happened. Okay, so we find out open 1 bakery shop, 2 bakery shop, 3, 4. The more bakery shop you open, you're probably gonna purchase more flour. Then you can negotiate for the lower price for the flour. So your average total cost goes down. And wait a minute, When it reach to the lower number, it start going up. Okay, so this is the long run average total cost. Okay, so now let's discuss different kind of economic scale. Okay, so basically with more output you made, the long run average total cost goes down. This is called economic scale, which means if I increase the scales of my production, my cost goes down. Okay, all right. Why is that? Okay, why my long run average total cost goes down when I produce more? Of course, if I produce more, then I can do labor specialization. So maybe one person do the cashier, one person bakery. So they focus on what they're good at, then they can increase productivity. And also management specialization too can increase productivity, efficient of capital. So those can increase the productivity and reduce the cost. So long run average total cost goes down. And then until it reach to where, which is the minimum. Okay, sometimes this minimum can last for a while. So this is economic scale. And here we reach to the minimum and last for a while. That is called constant return to scale. So where you want to produce? You don't want to produce here, but you want to produce more and more and more and more and more and until you produce here. Right? Because that is the lowest average total cost. Any question? Okay, think about that. If our goal is to minimize cost, okay, if that is our goal, I'm just assuming, then that is the best place I want to produce, okay? However, when you produce more and more and more, reach to Q2, okay? Let's say this is 100 bread, okay? So I'm gonna make one bread, price the average total cost goes down, 2 bread, 3 bread, 4, okay? More bread and mad, the cost goes down until I reach to the 100 bread. And when I reach 100 bread, my cost will be the lowest one. And then I start making 200, 300, 400, 500, until I reach 1,000 bread. And then when I start making more bread, 1,001, 1,002, I find out my average cost goes up. That is called the diseconomics of scale. So after we pass this quantity of output, I find out my average total cost goes up. And that is called the diseconomic scale. Why is that? Because sometimes when we have more output we're going to produce, we will create, let's say if I make 1,000 bread every day, probably I need to hire more worker and there's communication problem, control and coordination problem, and those is the problem. It's going to increase the management cost. So on the top of that, that will be increase the average total cost. So in that case, if you look at this graph, you want to produce more than 100 bread and less than 1,000 bread because this is the area where my constant return to scale is the minimum number. Okay, am I going into too fast?
No.
Okay, any question? All right, if there's no more question, let's talk about one of the important point is here. Okay, so if Dr. Z make bread, make, and then until I make 100 bread, I can reach the minimum point, okay? This point we give a special name, it's called a minimum efficient scale. Okay, what that means? If I can be in the lowest average total cost, minimum I need to make 100 bread. Of course, I can make 200 bread as far as less than 1,000 bread, I will be good, but I have to make at least 100 bread. So this is very important. Why? Because that shows you the lowest level of output you can produce to reach the minimized long run average cost. Okay, that can decide the structure of industry. Why is that? Let's say if I make 100 bread, I can reach the minimum long run average total cost. That will be easy for the other competition to come because they only need to make 100 bread to minimize the cost. Are you with me? Okay. However, if I'm gonna make a car, apparently I probably need to make 1,000 or 10,000 car to reach the minimum long run average total cost. So it's gonna be hard for other people compete here, right? Yes?
Yes, right.
Okay, so in that case, let's take a look, okay? Those industry, okay? Automobile, aluminum, steel, and other heavy industry, it's gonna take them put a lot of money, putting assembly line together and produce a lot of car to reach that minimum efficient point. So those industry, if you take a look, not a lot of company here, okay? We only have a handful automobile car company, okay? So if you are in this industry, because your minimum efficient scale is pretty big, so it's gonna need people to produce a lot to reach it here. So you're facing less competition. Yeah.
Yes.
Because just based on economic scale, they can wash away a lot of competition. Because for those people that in this industry, they need to put a lot of money and invest and make a lot of car to go through economic scale and reach to this point. And when they in this point, they are the lowest average total cost. And if anybody who only make 5,000 car, they are here. They cannot compete the big guy with here. So the one who don't have enough money to make those amount of car, they will be washed out from this industry automatically. So a lot of industry, they may don't have to put the patent or any special thing to wash out or to run off other competitor. They just need to run for economic scales, and then that will be big enough to make them only couple people standing in this industry. Okay, however, let's look at another case. Retails, farmer, baking, clothes, shoe industry, they are like this. It's pretty easy for them to reach the minimum efficient scale. So in that case, there's more firm in this industry. Okay, any question? So if you are going to walk into a business, okay, you need to recognize for you how many bread you make or how many shoes you're gonna make to reach the minimum efficient point. And if that number is pretty small, that means other people can do it. That means you're facing more competition. Okay, can I move to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So in that case, okay, the last part for this chapter, we talk about the long run cost. Basically, you put all the short run cost and then contingent on the minimum point, you will get a long run average total cost. And for long run average total cost is U-shape, okay? It could be at first, your average total cost goes down when you produce more. That is called economic scale. However, it goes to the point where your minimum average total cost can last, okay? Until you reach to the point when you make more, your cost goes up. Most people don't want to produce here, and they don't want to produce here. That is ideal place they want to produce. And then this will be the minimum scale, efficient scale. So to reach this one, the minimum you need to produce at this point. And here is where you get out of the constant return to scale, begin to increase your scale. You begin this economic scale. So that is where you don't want to produce more than that. And then we said it really depends on this quantity. If that's a big number, then you are going to the industry it just because economic scale, you can be pretty competitive in the market. But if you're facing this situation, you are going to be facing a lot of competition because it's easy to reach that smaller number. Okay, so that is all for chapter 9. Okay, so in that case, we finish this chapter